Chapter 6. When I woke up, I found myself floating through the clouds. I can't be awake. This must be a dream, I told myself. Wait, voiced inside my head. I understood I wasn't floating. I was flying. In a spaceship, looking out the massive viewing windows. Kaladar! Kaladar! Someone shouted as I turned to face the voicer. I realized I had no control over my movements, and how I was turning about face, or had any control over my voice as I was about to say, "Yes, Corinza. The fleet is awaiting orders, sir. Shall we light jump to the Earth's orbit?" A moment of hesitation ran through my mind. A taste of betrayal sat bitter upon my tongue, my senses tingling with anticipation and vulnerability. I raised my eyes, with no control, viewing the slimy creature more clearly. The breeds of Azura run strong, and also, in Corinza's case, weak. Only being half the size of more dominant Azurians, and also having half the wit, Corinza was forced into apprenticeship work, always having a master to look up to. "Hold for my orders," I finally pronounced. "Wait until I've returned to the master's chambers before I give the attack command." I turned away as Corinza's reply, "Yes, sir," hissed alongside me as I traveled the corridor to the master's chambers. Thinking to myself, this dread I feel is a bad omen. Down the corridor came calling, "Copeland, little Copeland." Closer and closer, louder and louder, but soothing. "Copeland," repeated. I then opened my true eyes to find myself staring into Katrina's mysticals once again. "Finally, you have awoken," she voiced with a cheeriness. I sat upright and muttered, "Yeah," almost coughing it out, still pondering the dream I was just having. Was that one of the dormant memories Katrina said I would be having visions of? Was I truly Kaladar, High War Priest of the Galactic Light Alliance? I felt like blacking out again, from the weight of the situation. "Katrina," I said meekishly, "what's going to happen to me?" She looked with sympathetic eyes and said, "We are to keep you safe from harm until your inner soul and mind have fully reawoken. Then you will reclaim your title as High War Priest and help us save your planet from destruction." I laid my head back down upon the pillow and attempted to swallow all the stress weighing down on me. Yet something deep inside of me was as solid as and unbreaking as stone diamonds. And even after hearing in disbelief my destiny, I felt stronger than before. Like I was something more. Like I truly was the Galactic Alliance's High War Priest, and she was just assuring me of the truth. I leaned back up and swung my feet off the bed into the floor. That's when I noticed I had been disrobed and changed into a long, soft, silk-like blue robe that tied around the middle with some sort of fabric that resembled silk. With blue and green gems embroidered into a matching pattern design, there was something familiar about this robe, I thought. As I slowly rubbed my thumb back and forth across the brightest gem, there was so much on my mind, but I can never think or function clearly on an empty stomach. I was literally starving. "Is there any food to eat?" I asked. I wonder what kind of food it is they ate anyway. "Of course," chuckled Kadrina. She then said, "Follow me to the Chamber of Light where we gather for myrrh or first meal. And also where we house the light." "What's the light?" I asked, looking back at her intrigued, not caring anymore if I was about to enjoy a plate of bugs or something other. My mind was thinking up. "You'll see. Let's just head over now." She turned to the doorway and walked through. I stood up, to my sudden surprise with a greater ease. I looked down at my feet and lifted my robe above my knee. I never exercised a day in my life, and was looking down at toned, sculpted calves, with somehow my feet growing longer and wider. I stood with a greater sturdiness. I lifted one foot. Perfect balance. I did a high leap roundhouse 360 kick like I was a natural martial artist. I untied my robe, my chest, arms, and stomach all bulging with muscles. Mouth gaped. I stood staring in disbelief at the transformation my body underwent, evidently overnight. I closed my eyes and reopened them quickly to see if they were playing tricks on me. They were true. I was transformed, I concluded decisively. I retied my robe and stepped out of the room. Kadrina, what's happened to my body? I showed her my flexing stomach and arms. Azura is a light planet, meaning it cancels off all the dark and negative things that was inside of you. All the toxins and viruses. That helped your body to rebuild, along with something called muscle memory. They're reverting back to their old previous state. Now they've reawoken the memories of being back home. Awesome, I uttered, looking down at my magnificence I had become. I had truly never felt better in my body, mind, and soul. I was anxious for answers, but weak from no sustenance. Kadrina, lead the way down the right corridor towards a large room, brightly lit. The corridor itself was shiny pearlescent ocean blue, twinkling with little blue-colored stones. On the wall itself were paintings of people, and I assume other places on Azura. One painting in particular depicted a large, spiraled, bright crystal white tower, powering out of the middle of a cavern filled with bright blue crystal, each shaped like sharp pointed triangle pillars, all coming towards the center of the white crystal. That must have towered 1,000 feet into the sky. It was truly amazing. Further down the hall was a painting of an old Azurian man, white diamond, white hair, shimmering and flowing off his head, face and chin. He had eyes of piercing pearl blue and chiseled facial features, with his nose coming down into a downward slope point and his high cheeks arched high. His eyes sank low, and he had a sturdy, hardened look to him. I wonder who he was, I asked myself. Below the painting read a name, Kaladar, Light Champion. Light Champion, I pondered to myself as we walked the rest of the hallway into silence. Kadrina broke it. This, young sir, is the Chamber of Light. We crossed the domain into a gigantic room filled with a blazing white light resembling a flamy smoke, repeating around in a circular fashion in the middle of the room. In the middle of the room was a glass cylinder from floor to ceiling, which was 50 foot high at least, containing a pure white light bouncing around the cylinder like smoke. It seemed to trail anyone who walked through the middle of the room. There was many people there, servants, people eating myrrh. Couldn't see clearly yet what was on their plates, though. In the direct back of the room, behind the light pillar, was a long table with fine see-through glowing plates, with see-through green fluorescent goblets, with trays of different steaming dishes smoldering steam off the top. They were elevated so I couldn't get to see what was producing the fumes. Sitting at the table, loudly chattering and pointing as well as looking my way, were 4 noble-looking Azurian men dressed in fine-looking gowns, or robes of some sort, coming up in a stiff collar above their neck and almost coming down, cape-like, to the floor. All had different patterned stone designs embroidered on them. The most noble of them all had an Azurian robe the color of cloudy white and rain blue, almost blending together to make the color of frost. As we walked closer to the table, I could see his face more clearly. His eyes matched his robe, a piercing frost of blue light. His hair glowing white with hints of blue glowing underneath, his face a palish blue, with the same downward sloped nose that seemed to run common with the elder Azurian. His features and cheeks seemed like they were pulled back like he was flying 100 miles an hour, and his face was being sucked onto his skull. His hair was very much in the same style, completely blown back. Around his neck swung an amulet, or pendant of some sort, with a bright blue center stone and surrounding bright white stones. The pendant was circular but had a design lining together all those stones to form a type of green star, with 5 white points and a blue center. He spoke with a deep, booming, powerful voice. "Kadrina, my daughter." I see he has awoken, looking at me with his piercing eyes. "How are you feeling?" he questioned me. "The best I have ever felt in my life, actually." And that is part 1 of chapter 6. Part 2 soon. It's written, I just can't film anymore.